All right, gang, it looks like we are live. Come on in, one and all. I see a bunch of you already here. Hey, guys, great to see you. We haven't done a live stream in a while, and I thought this would actually be probably an appropriate time for us to do it, as appropriate time as ever. Colin Powell has died. It has just been announced. I'm getting it particularly from Fox News here. We'll get into that. I wanted to actually discuss with you what I thought would be the fallout from the announcement of his death. I want you to be prepared for what is to come next, because I think you're going to see a massive amount of not just accolades for his life, and of course we ask God's richest blessings on him and his family. Death is a curse, and we don't celebrated by any stretch of the imagination, but he was a rabid anti-Trumper, and that is exactly what we are going to be seeing celebrated with the lauding of his life. The passing away of Colin Powell will be the attempt by our mainstream media to try to resurrect as much as they can the Great Reset and the globalist conditions of the Obama era that Sleepy Joe is currently effing up right now. Remember, Obama said, never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to F things up. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. I think we're seeing Biden effing up the Great Reset, and they're going to do whatever they can now with the passing of Colin Powell to try to reestablish some momentum that's been horrifically lost because of Biden's failures in more ways than we can even imagine. So come on in, gang. Great to be talking about this. I'm going to draw some analogies too from John McCain's funeral. They exploited that as well. The left-wing globalists, or the duopoly of Democrats and rhinos. The way they came together for the John McCain funeral. I actually applaud when people were taking, thanks so much, Kevin, very appreciated. Super Chat is on for you guys as well. They actually applauded whenever a speaker at McCain's funeral actually dissed Trump. They used the occasion to insult President Trump and the MAGA movement and those of us who love America First policies. So you could expect that in many respects on steroids with Colin Powell, who's about as McCainite as they come. Before we begin, gang, I did want to make sure you knew we have a link down below for our New Conservative Patriot Live virtual event. It's coming up in a few weeks. It's November 12th and 13th. You definitely want to register for it, because myself and several special guests are going to teach you how to build a society completely free from all things woke and experience once again the nation that we know and love. I saw somebody on the Ron Paul network call it a silent secession. A silent secession is indeed happening, and the Ron Paul Institute believed, the spokesman for the Institute believed, that this was guaranteeing the preservation of freedom in our nation. So this virtual event is going to get into that silent secession. You don't even have to leave the comfort of your own couch. It is virtual. And over the course of 2 days, we're going to learn how to become part of and help build what's called a parallel polis. These are parallel structures in our society, so we can be free once and for all from woke corporations and woke institutions. So it's an event like nothing else. I show you the tangible steps for how to fight for freedom and take back our customs, cultures, and traditions that we love. So make sure to click on the link below right now to get your tickets, because to make it even sweeter, we have an early bird special where you can register at a super low price, but that special is going to expire in like 48 hours. So the clock is ticking. Do not miss it. Click on that link below. Take advantage of our special early bird special. And I'll see you for a weekend that promises to be a game changer for your life like never before. All right, let me see where I've got it. I'll just read a quick, the headlines. This is from Fox News. So Colin Powell, former Secretary of State, dead at the age of 84 due to COVID complications. General Colin Powell, the influential former Secretary of State and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who played a pivotal role during the administration of then President George W. Bush, died Monday at 84 from complications related to COVID-19. His family announced, "We have lost a remarkable and loving husband, father, grandfather, and a great American," his family said in a statement, adding that he was fully vaccinated. The statement continued, we want to thank the medical staff at Walter Reed National Medical Center for their caring treatment. So Colin Powell has died. He has died of COVID complications, and the accolades are going to start pouring in like never before. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with him, with his family during this time. But make no mistake, it will not be long before we are treated to the massive amount of accolades for him that will include a lot of denouncing of President Trump and the MAGA movement. Powell was a rabid anti-Trumper. And, you know, we were warned of his leftist, liberal, swampy tendencies by Rush Limbaugh back in '96. I don't know how many of you remember that. So this is when Bob Dole was trying to get the nomination. He had Pat Buchanan nipping at his heels. And for whatever reason, the media started really playing up Colin Powell as the GOP nominee back in '96 to challenge Bill Clinton. I think Bill Clinton was disappointing to a number of liberals in the media, and they knew that Colin Powell wouldn't be. And so a lot of Republicans were like, hey, maybe we got a chance, you know, to take back the White House with this Colin Powell guy. And Rush Limbaugh came out and said, no way. You don't want anything to do with this guy. This guy is not a Republican. He is not a conservative. And Rush single-handedly led a massive backlash against Colin Powell back then, and more or less destroyed any semblance of a political career he could have had. And he never pursued politics. But as we saw several years later, Powell showed his true colors in 2016. He was a rabid anti-Trumper, and that is going to be highlighted for sure over the next few days by our media elite in their ongoing attempt to resurrect a dying globalist order. We saw this with John McCain's funeral. If you recall, all the eulogies that were offered at McCain's funeral took a number of pot shots at President Trump. They actually, in many respects, turned the funeral into kind of a dire and dreary political rally. It was really ridiculous. And they took a number of pot shots at President Trump and his nationalist populist base. I don't know if you recall. I will remind you, because this is what we're going to hear over the next few days. Meghan McCain said this. She said, quote, America does not boast because she does not have to. The America John McCain has no need to be made great again because America was always great. And then many in the church started to applaud. It was really very inappropriate. A number of commentators pointed that out. Even Obama took his pot shots too. He got up and spoke, and he criticized those who traffic in what he called, quote, bombast and insult and phony controversies and manufactured outrage. I wonder who he's talking about. Quote, John McCain called on us to be bigger than that. He called on us to be better than that. And he described McCain, and George Bush then came in and described McCain as, quote, he respected the dignity inherent in every life, a dignity that does not stop at borders. These guys, I mean, they actually expect us to take them seriously. That's what's so fascinating. Now, you'll notice this is going to be key to remember as all of the mainstream media's accolades come upon Powell at the expense of Trump and the MAGA movement, because it is certainly the case. It is certainly the case that America, in many respects, has always been great. Meghan McCain was not wrong on that. The difference, however, which she did not recognize, is America has not always been globalist. America may have always been great, but America has not always been globalist. And when you have freaking George W. Bush getting up and saying that John McCain respected every human life, and that respect, that dignity of every human didn't stop at borders, I mean, you're seeing precisely what MAGA was all about. That's why we don't just see Make America Great Again on my channel, right? When you look at the comments, you'll see Make Poland Great Again, Make Brazil Great Again, right? Make Hungary Great Again, Make Spain Great Again, Make Canada Great Again. What are these rallying cries? What are these Let's Go Brandon cries, if you think it through, right? They are rallying cries of emancipation of our respective nations from this single political and economic system known as globalization. And what Colin Powell unfortunately represented, as does George W. Bush, as did John McCain, is they represented this notion that the single political and economic system of globalization is salvific for the human race. It's going to save us. And Trump, therefore, represents an existential threat to the human race in that sense. Okay. Powell's death will be exploited by the corporatist globalist media to push for the Great Reset, right? The desperate attempt to keep globalism alive, even though more and more populations are turning back to nation culture, custom, and tradition as a way of moving forward in life, what Michel Mafusali referred to as neo-tribalism. Hey, from Canada, keep up the great work. Thanks, Sean. And by the way, Sean, I'll thank you for that. Canada didn't do so bad in that last election. The populists tripled their vote. The conservatives are starting to pivot more towards a nationalist populist paradigm that gave them a higher vote too. You've got that strange past the poll kind of, past the post kind of voting system. But nevertheless, they pivoted a bit left on their economics and pivoted right on culture. That's the sweet spot. That's exactly where you want to be. So you'll see, it's still a hung parliament. So you'll see another election in a couple of years. And if the trends continue, the nationalist, populists, and conservatives the Tories may actually do really create some kind of coalition there. We'll see. I know Quebec nationalism throws a monkey wrench in a lot of that. But anyway, God bless Canada. We love the Great White North. So we've got to remember, gang, that that globalization and the whole notion of the revitalization, or I should say the relativizing of border and economy and custom and culture and religion and tradition to transnational, transcultural, political, and economic protocols. Again, what we have to understand for Colin Powell and others, this was salvific, okay? It's salvific in that globalism saves us. It delivers us from the terrors of nationalism and racism and ethnic-inspired violence and xenophobia and anti-Semitism and the like. Globalism rescues us from poverty and hunger. It rescues us from, diseases and viruses. It opens up new possibilities for women and ethnic minorities and sexual minorities. We could go on and on. This is what these true believers really stand for, like Colin Powell, George W. Bush. They stand for this notion of the salvific nature of globalism. And the fact that they're willing to exploit funerals like John McCain or the death of Colin Powell into, political rallies for revitalized globalism speaks volumes in terms of what they really value as salvific in human affairs. And of course, again, no one embodied this hope more than Colin Powell. Colin Powell was a globalist par excellence. He openly supported Hillary Clinton. He expressly voted for Joe Biden. He faithfully embodied the duopoly of the Democrats and rhinos, who are the permanent political class. And his death will be used accordingly by the corporatist globalist media to laud the very political class he stood for. Unfortunately for globalists in DC and around the world, and this really is my point, not only are you going to see his death used as a platform to push for more globalism, but you're also, I think, the reality of that push is going to hit the globalists. I'm sorry to say, but I think the reality of it all is that Powell's passing, when all is said and done, could be legitimately construed as symbolic of the passing of globalism. Okay. Just like with McCain, I do think we are witnessing two passings here. We had the passing of a revered, but of course, highly controversial Secretary of State, Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff on the one hand, and you have the passing of the worldview to which his life was so faithfully dedicated on the other. The fact is simply that there's nothing that the globalist elite can do to stop the fact that nationalist populism is sweeping the world. There's really nothing you can do about it. Even CNN is beginning to admit this. We did a video last week. You probably, hopefully you got to see it. If not, make sure you check it out. But we did a video last week of a contributor on CNN basically admitting the MAGA movement's unstoppable. And his argument is because the MAGA movement is coming out of a wider polarization between college grads and non-college grads. This polarization is being partisanized, where college grads are becoming Democrats and non-college grads, people who don't go to college, are becoming MAGA-loving Republicans. And the problem is that it's a 70-30 split. Only about 30% of our population goes to college. 70% doesn't. 70% of our population does not have a bachelor's degree. And what this guy was saying is what seems to be unstoppable is this partisanization of the college dividing line. College grads are becoming Democrats, non-college grads are becoming Republican. And when you have a 70-30 split in those respective populations, MAGA movement is going to destroy the Democrats. And so, I mean, it's becoming more and more admitted that we are moving more and more into a nationalist populist world. And with the news of Powell's passing, we're certainly going to see massive accolades, not just for the man, but for the worldview he represented. But I think it's all too little too late. Regardless of what the media says, his passing represents the eventual demise of his globalist worldview as well. You know, the old Cold War era is inexorably coming to an end. That's a hard word. The old Cold War era. There you go. I can get it out. It is coming to an end. And there's nothing that the mainstream media's feigned fanfare about that world and its supposed continuation can do about that eventual demise. So God bless Colin Powell and his family. We do pray God's grace and comfort and peace during this time. But I think the mainstream media's attempt to try to revitalize his legacy as a means of revitalizing globalism will fail. And they will do everything they can to mock and ridicule Trump and the MAGA movement, which Colin Powell was stood so steadfastly against. But in the end, I think they're just, it's sound and fury signifying nothing. They are just simply kicking against the goads, and there's nothing they're going to be able to do to stop the rising MAGA movement. Now, before you go, gang, you will definitely want to check out my latest video on patriots rising up against vax mandates with a massive lawsuit. You're going to love this one. I pinned it down below for you. I put it down right below the video here. It's an interview I do with the patriots who are bringing a massive lawsuit. It's going to absolutely fire you up. It's going to get you so excited. So make sure to click on the link below, and I'll see you over there, gang. God bless. Good to see you live. Great interacting with you guys. Take care now.